So before we move forward here and start hopefully seeing something on the screen or something on the console to see that we're actually getting JSON, we need to go to our info plist here and add something so that we are able to actually fetch data from the internet. So if you come to our info plist, click, you should see this. So right click and say add row. When you add row, we want to go and add the app transportation security as such. Hit enter. And then you click on the app transport security and click this plus button there, say plus. We want to add the allow arbitrary loads. So click there, hit enter. And then what we want to change this to true. So what do we do? Click at the top there or to the right, say yes and hit enter. And voila, now you have that yes. So I'm going to go ahead and save this and let's build as well, just to make sure. Very good. So everything is built. So next thing we need to do is to be able to call this search city from our forecast view model. Okay, so to do that, let's for now just to test things out, let's go to our content view here. The first thing we need to do here is we need to invoke the forecast view model because this is where we have all that information, right? How to get things, and we're going to add more code later. So I'm going to invoke our forecast view model. I'm going to say var forecast view model, and it's going to be forecast view model type. But because we know that our forecast view model is indeed an observable, so that means this case here, to invoke it, we need to make this observed. So I'm going to say at observed object as such. Okay. And then I'm going to initialize it because we need to make sure that it's ready to be worked with. I'm going to say init, no pass, no parameter, and I'm going to say self dot forecast view model is going to be equal to the actual forecast view model initialized, the actual object. Okay, just like that. Very good. So once we have our forecast view model, which contains the search city and initializes everything for us, it's time for us to check things out here, how things will work. Well, first of all, because I'm inside of a content view, what I'm going to do here, I'm actually going to add a text field for now. We're going to change all this later. It's a text field as such. And of course, I'm going to say enter city name as a placeholder. And then for the text here, I'm going to pass self dot. Notice now I have access to the $ forecast view model because here we're going to be doing the binding of our forecast view model, which we're going to get the city name. That's why it even suggested us to pass the $ forecast view model because we're binding that variable. Each time it changes, it will change along the way both ways. So like that. And I'm going to go ahead and get city name. Okay. And once we have that, the moment we hit enter, what are we going to do? We're going to also say self dot forecast view model. Notice we're going through forecast view model because that is the idea. We want to make sure that everything is separated. Forecast view model in this case, I'm going to go ahead and invoke the search city as such. So in this case here, we should have the text field which will allow us to enter a city, and then when we hit enter, it will go ahead and invoke the search city, which does all the things that we already know. Okay, let's go ahead and save this and give it a quick run here and see what's going to happen. Okay, there we go. It says Boston there. The reason why it's saying Boston is because that's what we actually set it to have in the beginning. So if I say Spokane here and run and change, notice that city name is going to change to Spokane now because it's binded first of all, but also we change it there. So now if I just go ahead and hit enter, I should see something happening at the bottom here. You saw here in our output console there. Notice we got a lot of information here. So that means everything is working. Now, where is this coming from? Right? It's a forecast. Well, this is coming from, if you remember correctly, one of our services here. We actually printed this out here. So we say, just give us the whole payload that we're getting. So in fact, this is what we're getting here. All this information, weather, clouds, icons, and so forth. So things are indeed working. So now is a matter of us to decipher all of this, meaning probe in and parse all that information and start showing there. So at least we know that our service is working. And as evidence, here we go. Forecast, and gives us all these optionals and so forth. Right? Spokane, and there is the coordinate latitude, population, and so forth. Very good. Excellent. Now, we don't need this anymore. I'm going to comment this out just so that we don't keep receiving all that information. Now, we are going to go back to our forecast view model there. So what we're going to do here is we're going to go ahead and extract some of the information from our payload here, because we know we're getting that information, but now we're going to extract it so that we can format it and do whatever we want before we put inside of our user interface. So first thing I'm going to get is city, right? The current city we are in. I'm going to say var current city is a string. So closure here. I'm going to say if let city be equal to self dot weather forecast. Remember, this weather forecast here has all the payload that we want. I'm going to go say dot city. In fact, you can see right away that we are doing the right thing because it gives us the prediction, the code guessing here that says, okay, you can go ahead and invoke the city object. Yes, I want the city dot name as such. Okay. If that's what's happening, I'm going to return the actual city. All right. If all is good, else I'm just going to go ahead and return something like that, nothing. Okay, I can do the same. Let's say I want to get the country, say var current country, same thing. If let country self weather forecast city, go through city to get the country name, say country, like that. All right, and I'm going to return the country because it has something. Else, I'm going to just go ahead and say return nothing. Let's check this out, see if this works. So we go back to our content view here. So once everything is done, below here I'm going to put a text, and this text I'm going to say city, for instance, and I want to be able to get the city that we added or the city that we're getting from our payload here. So if it's Spokane, because we added Spokane, it's going to be Spokane. If it's Milan, it's going to be Milan, and so forth, right? And so how do I do that? Well, I'm going to go ahead and go through our forecast view model because that's where we added everything, isn't it? So now I can just say forecast or self dot forecast view model. I can go ahead and just fetch the city name like that, right? And run this. Says Spokane and city Spokane. Right? Because this is what we added there. So if I change this to Boston, hit enter, city Boston. It's changing because it went ahead and actually fetched all the payload, as you can see here. It's all looking and showing again, and is changing to city Boston because we said here we want just to say city Boston. Let's say Kingston, enter. Kingston, there we go. And of course we had that payload again and so forth. So this is actually working. Again, what's happening here is that we are actually changing whatever we pass here. Boston, hit enter. There is Boston. If we say Kingston, should say Kingston there. And let's say we want to get the country. Well, we just added that. So we can actually go down here, do the same thing. And say country and just pass country. Current country, that is, and run. It's all on top of each other because we are inside of a Z stack. In fact, I can just put all of this inside of V stack like this. That way we can see the differences here, folks. All right, let's go ahead and give it a run. Okay, there we go. Let's change this to Kingston like we did before. Very nice. City is Kingston, country is JM for Jamaica, which is exactly what we're getting there, right? Kingston we added there, and JM for Jamaica. Very, very good. Very good. Very good indeed. So it is working. We're getting the data that we want, although it's all disorganized here, as you can see, but at least you can see that our construction is working here. But most importantly, you have to remember that we are adding everything inside our forecast view model here because it's much easier because we get the data from here and we format if we need to be, and then in our user interface, we can just call forecast view model and invoke the city name. In this case, current city is this, and goes and gets that information for us. Okay, I hope this is making sense. In the next video, we're going to start pulling more data and as well putting together the user interface.